Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for an all new episode recap of today's Daysofourlives, May 27, 2025. So we start off with Leo and Javi, right? So they're just spending breakfast together and they're talking about the whole situation with him and Gabby and you know Leo's asking him how is he feeling. He's thinking that he needs a new career change. And Leo is asking him, Leo is suggesting that he try out for the Salem, Salem Fire Department. And he's hesitant about it because of his prior experience in Texas with the homophobic fire chief. And he just doesn't want that situation to happen again. So Leo said, he doesn't think it will happen again. But if it does, he's there to support him. So he said that he will think about it. So they actually spent the night at the Salem Inn, Leo's old stomping grounds. So he's asking Javi if he wants to go back to staying at the house. So Javi said, I'm really gonna think about it and see how we're gonna smooth this over, right? So JJ and Gabby have been searching for Ari for the past couple of hours, and JJ could tell that Gabby is drained, and he's suggesting that she eat some breakfast before they go back out to look for her. So she doesn't want to have no breakfast because she's just frustrated. She's just panicking, wondering what could have happened to Ari like in the first 24 hours of her visit. And she's worried about what Will or Sonny might think when she tells them what's going on. So JJ is saying, you gotta get your strength up. And they have the breakfast. Of course, before that she was trying to get on JJ, and she realized that she can't be hard on JJ because it's not his fault, and she appreciates him for being with her throughout these couple hours trying to find Ari. So he understands, right? Because she is a mom, and she's just worried about where her daughter could be. So he's saying, maybe Ari could be out with a boy at a boy's place, or just teenagers can get in a lot of things, maybe drug or alcohol. So Gabby's swearing for her daughter that knowing her daughter, Ari would never do this. She's 18 now. Like, she's gonna test the limits, and she is going to, like, we cannot swear for our children that they're gonna be innocent and good and all of that. Like, yes, but they might go up to something, they might be up to something, like they might do something, try to test our limits, sneak behind our backs. Like, we've all been there. Like, I've been there. Like, I might not say that I've done a lot of reckless things, but I definitely have sneaked behind my mom or dad's back, like maybe once or twice or a few times. So you cannot swear for your children. Like, they are going to do something to actually just test your limits, your patience, disappoint you. It's gonna happen, right? So you can't swear for them that they're gonna stay the same way they were at 5 or 6 year old as innocent little kids. It's not going to be that way, right? So we gotta be open-minded that they are gonna do some things to let us down. So Miss Ari, she has been out the whole night. She was at the bar having a couple of drinks, and she ended up back at the hotel room with Mr. Doug. So I'm surprised at this because Doug was into Holly, and I'm saying, it's so surprising how he ended up in bed with Ari. I mean, he's not in a relationship with Holly, but the way how he was pining after her is surprising how this was the result. So anyways, they had their rump in the hay, and she's ignoring all those calls and text messages from her mom, and I'm saying that is just really disrespectful. But teenagers are selfish. They do not care about the worry or the fear that they have caused, the shame that they have caused to their parents. They do not care about that. They just care about being in the moment, the thrill of the moment. And that's what she's doing right here. She does not care to say, okay, mom, I'm here. She's not going to communicate with her. She's turning off her phone. She's ignoring that, and that's disrespectful. Now I could understand from my mom and dad's point of view when I was, somewhere else, and they were worried. Like, I can understand it now as a parent myself, how I would feel, so definitely can see it from both sides. And what Ari did, was disrespectful. And whenever her mom finds out what she been up to and who it was with, then this is gonna be a whole mess. And we know how Gabby can get, right? So anyways, they get dressed and they come out of the room, and they're like, meet up another time. So they love to meet up. Of course, Doug can't pay for the hotel room or whatever. So that was really it because, Doug don't have money like that. So they agreed to meet up at some point, and that was really it with them. When Ari was trying to sneak out of the inn, Johnny, Chanel, and Tate were in the square. She doesn't want them to see her, so she hid behind a tree while Doug went the other way. So, anyways, she sits in the square and she gets a text message. Well, she sees all the text messages from her mom, and she's like, "Oh, my mom is overreacting." And I'm saying, Ari, you're not a parent, so you don't understand what it feels like, to not know where your child is. Like, a lot of serious things is happening in the world right now with abduction of kids and all kind of things. Like, she has every right to worry and like call and blow up your phone. Like, what do you think this is? So Gabby comes over and Gabby's like, I've been worried about you. Where have you been all night? Like from all night to today, right? So she is like, chill, mom. It wasn't that serious. I was at a friend's house, and she's like, which friend? And she's like bringing up this random name. So she said, I don't remember this person. So she said, you haven't really been paying attention to me, when I was younger. So you probably didn't know that name. So she's like, I don't think you're telling the truth. So JJ is getting in the middle of it, and he's saying, this is a conversation that, look, it's a mother and daughter thing, and it's very sensitive. So, definitely, I'm staying out of this, right? So she said that, I'm 18 now, you can't control my life, you can't do this, you can't do that. And she said, as long as you're under my roof, like, this is what it is, right? So, anyways, JJ leave for a second, and Javi comes over, and Javi's seeing what's going on, and you know, Javi said, "I'm sorry I didn't make it to your birthday party," and Ari's on saying that she understands that. Okay, she understands why he couldn't make it because of how her mom has been acting. So she said, "I tried to reach out to you, try to apologize," and Javi's not hearing it, and she said that, I understand that, I've been very awful to you, and I understand if you can't forgive me at this time. And he said, look, like, there's no way that I can never forgive you and that I can stop loving you. Like, you're my cousin and we always are going to go through stuff, but I can't work for you. I have to figure something else out. So she said that, are you going to come over? I realize you and Leo haven't been at home. So he said that, yes, we're coming over, and then, we can definitely try to work past it to see where it goes. So JJ comes back over, and JJ tells Ari and Gabby that, her great grandpa John is in the hospital, right? So Ari and Gabby go over there to, check in on him. So Doug comes over to see Leo, and, he needs his help to retrieve the necklace. And, Leo said, yes, at this point, I consider you a friend. He was going to ask him if he has to pay him. So he said, no, it's cool. I can help you retrieve Julia's necklace, right? So that was really it. Javi comes back over, and Javi tells Leo that, I thought about what we were talking about earlier, and, I want to give it a shot. I want to apply for the Salem Fire Department. So he's happy about that. And yeah, let's see where it goes, because I really want to see Javi in a different element. What can he bring to the soap opera, right? I think there's more to him than just, the loving, companion to Leo, right? Leo is already a lot of personalities. So Javi, definitely he's more on the quiet side to me compared to Leo. So definitely would like to see another element of him being developed on the soap opera. So Johnny and Chanel are there. They're christening their new home. And, they're happy to be starting this new chapter. And, Johnny is getting ready to start this new job at Demira Titan. So Chanel is just wondering if this is the right call because, Xander was just alleged to cause that whole thing with Philip. So, Johnny said it's fine. He was cleared for that. And besides, I need another way to make money rather than depending on my Demira inheritance, right? So he said that, he should be fine. And, they're sorting themselves out, and he's looking forward to actually having children with Chanel, adopting. So, it's a good look for the two of them. So anyways, he looks on his phone because they have been obviously busy. looks on the phone and realizes he got a lot of calls and messages from his family about great grandpa, well, Grandpa John, right? So he calls his mom to find out what's going on. Turns out Sammy and Sydney, they were supposed to go on a quick flight to come to Salem to see John. However, a volcano hit the country and now the airports are closed. So now they can't, be able to do that. So anyways, Johnny says, oh, you know what? I need to go see for myself what's going on. So Chanel goes with him to support him. So Melinda, it's been a while since we see Melinda. Good to see her back. So she is having a meeting with Sophia because remember Sophia said that she needs to meet with attorney to consider the route of adoption on her own, right? She's 18 now, so she wants to go ahead with it. She's adamant about it. So she sits down with her and talks about it. And Melinda is saying, are you sure about this? She said, yeah, but my mom has definitely been giving me pushback about it based on her beliefs. So she said, I understand that you're 18 and you want to go ahead with it and legally you can, but it's good when all parties are on board with going through with this process. So anyways, she asked her about the child's father and if he's on board. So she said, yes, he's on board. He just has been under the weather. And he said that, he should be well enough to come check with us later, right? So Mrs. Choi comes into the pub and she's surprised to see Sophia there with Miss Trask, and she's saying like, Sophia, aren't you supposed to be in school? So she said that, she's like, what are you doing with this woman here? So she said that, you know, I am trying to, go through with this adoption. And now that I'm 18, I want to do it on my own with or without your approval. So she said, like, on all over my dead body, like it's not gonna happen. Like I told you how I feel about this. So she said, like, yes, you have definitely told me clearly, but like at the end of the day, like I'm an adult now and I can legally go through it. And Melinda is also saying that, look, you don't want to lose your daughter over this, but the law is on our side, right? So Mrs. Choi is like, who are you to really comment on our family situation? So she said, I understand how you feel, like I understand both sides because I've been there. Like, and she tells a deep story about, her adoption journey. And, remember back in the day when Melinda and Haley Chen was around and we figured out that they were not sisters, they were actually mother and daughter. So remember, Melinda gave up Haley for adoption to her parents because at that time she was 17 when she was pregnant with Haley, and she ended up giving Haley to her parents to raise, and they did a phenomenal job. She turned out to be a great person, that was, working as a nurse. She went over to the States from China to further herself. And she realized that at 17, she was a mess. She was not able to provide Haley that stability that her parents could. And, it left her conflicted because now, as we all know, and I've been watching for years, Haley died at the hands of Kristen accidentally. And now she wishes that she had more time with her, and she's just imploring to Mrs. Choi that, look, you don't want to lose your daughter over this because of your stance on this. Really think about it. So it really touched Mrs. Choi, and she thanks her for telling her story. And she's gonna, think about it more. And she said that she will talk to Sophia later on because she had something to do at work, right? So, anyways, she is on board to employ Miss Trask as her lawyer, but then Tate comes in. Tate is like, no, we're not working with this lady because of what she did to Nicole and Holly's brother, the whole adoption thing that went messy. So she said, I understand my role in that, and I was just trying to help out a friend, but that just shows how how far I will go to help my clients. So Tate doesn't belie that, and Sophia was not aware of her role in that at all, so it made her think twice about it. But anyways, Miss Tash said that to think about what she said, and she's definitely understanding of what position Sophia is in. So she gives her the card and says to really call her when she sorts things out, right? So Johnny and Chanel run into Tate in the square, and Tate tells them about Grandpa John and what kind of condition he's in, and he's saying that he was trying to tell him that he loves him, but he doesn't know if he heard it. So Chanel is assuring him that he did. he's just worried about him and, if he's gonna make it. Earlier, we know Tate has been recovering from the flu for a couple days, so he has definitely been under a rock about John coming home, and he doesn't see his dad or his grandma Marlena. So that's when he saw his phone, checked his messages about Grandpa John. He called his dad, and his dad told him what's going on. So that's when he went over to the hospital. So he was able to tell Johnny Chanel what's going on, right? So, anyways, Johnny and Chanel, that's when Johnny and Chanel went over there to check in on John, and he just can't believe that that's the state his grandpa is in. But Chanel reminds him that, John is a strong man, he's a fighter, and that, he's gonna pull through, and he has to be optimistic about that. So she's just there to really support him through this, and that's why she even called off work to be there for him, right? But that's it in a nutshell about today's episode. Comment below your thoughts on today's episode, and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. I will see you guys tomorrow.